Why many people get many rejection emails from the job applications?
I got 200 rejections. That was like brutal. Expect to be rejected. That way, if you get rejected, then it doesn't hurt that much.
Share your resume with your friend and your colleague if you're comfortable with it.
I cannot say how many of my friends found a job just because of their GitHub profile. See the goals and the values of the company. And it's very easy. Just open their website and use them.
Some people don't really like live coding and this kind of interview, which is so uncomfortable. Same for me.
And it's important. You need to be in the lead, not them. This interview both has landed me jobs and both have lost me jobs.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Otago channel. I'm Ali, software engineer, and you are here in the Otago channel. In this channel, you can find everything about software engineering, from live coding to some tips and tricks or any news about software development. Or like this video, we are going to talk about a job interview, which is critical for any software developer need to know how to act in these kind of interviews. And we are going to have an interview with one of the greatest software developers who called Sayed. He will introduce himself in a minute, but I'm just going to give you a short introduction and what we are going to do. I'm thinking to have a walkthrough to the whole process of an interview for a software developer to get to know what kind of step we can expect and ask Sayed to give us some tips and tricks about the interview and resume writing and everything. Let's see what we can find out in this video. Hey Sayed, how are you?
Hi, I'm very good, very good. I'm very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks you for the time, and it's very great to have you here. I know you have lots of experience in software development in general and specifically in a job interview and the process and even resume writing. And I got lots of tips and advice from you, and I really appreciate if you could share some of those to our audience.
Sure thing. Well, I've been a software engineer for some time, and almost in every company that I've worked for, I either have done interviews or I've set up the process or influenced the process in one way or the other. So I've been sitting in both sides of the table, being the interviewee and the interviewer. I've always tried to help both sides as much as I can. So yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. The first question I would like to ask you, why many people get many rejection emails from the job applications? What's the reason? It's very mysterious to everyone.
Well, if it's a mystery to everyone. It's a mystery to myself sometimes. I remember the first time that I was, not the first time, actually the third time I was applying. I got 200 rejections. That was like brutal. So rejections are, I think it's just part of the process. You cannot deny them, or you cannot have a silver bullet that says, if you apply with this resume, if you apply with this profile, you will not get rejected. I don't think that's even possible. There is a thing called referral, which is kind of a backdoor to get into the interview process, but we can touch on that a little bit later. But in terms of sending your resume to a company for a job application, there is a good chance that you get rejected. Obviously, there are things that you can do to minimize the rejection possibility. But in general, what I suggest to everyone, friends of mine that reach out, is just expect to be rejected. That way, if you get rejected, then it doesn't hurt that much. And you have the momentum to go much, much further. But if you want to talk about some tips, honestly, I always start with the resume itself. Before you start looking at any job application, I'll always say that have a look at the resume, try some of the online free stuff. I think resumeworded.com. I can share the links later.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It has a good resource, and each part of the resume has its purpose. We can dive deeper, but have a look at it in general, in close-ups, and have a look at all the details. Share with your friends and see what they think. And even after that, today there are great tools that you can use for free without paying at all, just to check how your resume stands in general. They give you numbers, they give you scores, they give you feedback, and of course you can improve it based on that. One thing that always come to my mind about resume is just please please don't have a typo. Make sure that you proofread and make sure all the words are in a proper dictation or spelling. What else we can say about resume? And all right, yeah, after you get the general of the resume right, the next step is to have a look at the job description you want to apply. I have seen, not few actually, companies that put small keywords in the job description. They expect you to have that keyword when you're applying for them. They're doing this just to see that you have actually read the entire job description and not just sift through it. After that, make sure the job description actually matches the resume. This is something that not many people do. I'm guilty of it myself. But if you really want to maximize your chances with that resume, you need to make sure that it matches as much as possible to the job description. Obviously, we don't want to lie, but if you have the experience, but you have set the story in a different way, maybe you can bend it, or maybe you can rewrite the story somehow that it matches the job description.
Mm-hmm. Sorry to interrupt you. Is it like you're saying you have to tailor your resume based on the job application? Like for me, I'm going to apply for like many companies, like you said, 200. I almost did the same thing, but it's very cumbersome for me to like write resume per company. It's really too much for me. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Not many people actually do this. I know it's a lot of time and it's a lot of effort, but then again, people are in different stages. If you're looking for a job desperately, which at some point of time I was, or if you already have a job and you just want to change or looking for a better job, then you're two different people. The first one tries everything in their hand to get that resume landed on someone's desk or someone's eyes or computer these days. But the other one says, okay, let me try this. If it works, then great. If it doesn't, there are tons of other companies that I can apply because I'm already good at here. So yeah, if you really want to maximize your chances, you better change or update your resume based on the job description. But truth be told, in our industry, job descriptions are also most of the time copy paste. So if you have a good, strong resume in general that supports, let's say if you're in Android development or in your back-end development, then that resume, probably 80 to 90% will match most of the other job applications as well, job descriptions as well. It's just the final tuning or making everything slightly customized for that job description that will stand out.
Cool. Yeah, it's a very good point you mentioned that. And I want to walk through a bit quicker to get to other point as well. But quickly, could you tell like characteristic of a good resume? How many pages should I put my like a profile picture or an overview about the resume?
Sure. I mean, there is a lot of controversy out there about all of these points. And my answer usually is just try different versions of your resume and see which one works better. If you get a response from one, then continue with that one. If you don't get a response from the other one, try modifying it slightly and see what happens next. Some of the general suggestions I usually make to people is try to remove the profile photo just to have more room for your content, because usually photos or pictures take a lot of room in the header, which can be used preciously for summaries or for skills. That's usually the first thing that the reader sees. So make sure if you want to add a photo, make sure that it actually leaves enough room for you. Or on the other side, if someone just starting to get into the career, I would say put the photo in, because that removes some of the empty spaces that you might have because you don't have enough experiences. So you can play around with this. Another thing about photo is that, again, back in time when I was creating my first resume, people were telling me that, hey, if you put in your photo, people might judge. I know this is not something that we would like to hear or we want to avoid. And I know that most of the companies try to avoid that, but we cannot avoid human instincts. Sometimes there are people, and you never know who's reading that. People can judge you just based on your photo. So by removing your profile photo or by you removing your selfie, you're just removing that chance of being judged just based on your photo. Again, I'm not saying everyone should do it, or for every company, for every country that should do it. I would say try with different combinations and see which one works.
Cool. Yeah, sure. I agree with you. One advice I remember you gave it to me was share your resume with your friend and your colleague if you're comfortable with it. And you can find those typos you mentioned or just getting some tips and you can improve that. And I found it quite helpful personally.
Yeah, always. You never get enough of asking people for help or asking people to just proofread your resume and see what they can find. There's all sorts of stuff that they can help you with.
Yeah, true. One last thing about these resume, like aside from the a paper resume, there are at least in our industry and software development, we can improve our LinkedIn profile if we are able to contribute on open source projects, like going to on GitHub. And do you say these are good things to do, or that's not really important for job application?
No, absolutely. Especially the GitHub. I cannot say how many of my friends found a job just because of their GitHub profile without even trying the resume. I myself have a few experiences that I could manage myself to land in an interview. I didn't succeed, but I got the interview just because of my GitHub. Especially if you are just getting started in your career, have a GitHub repository, create some demo projects. You don't need to create a moon rocket. No. Simple stuff like to-do apps or backend, maybe some simple REST API, just to showcase what you can do. And if you have commits, it will showcase how you have progressed over the time, which is very important, because if I'm a tech interviewer, I want to see what you do in general and where you have been, where you have got. Or if you say, I know about this tool, but I want to see if you really mean that, then obviously the best place is your GitHub. LinkedIn, on the other hand, is always there. Some companies check it, some companies don't. So it doesn't kill if you just have it updated and have it shine. Plus, the benefit of LinkedIn is that you always have a lot more space, a lot more different ways to kind of present yourself in the best way possible.
I don't know. I am nosy or what, but sometimes when I'm going to interview somebody, I search their name on GitHub or Medium and LinkedIn to find out as much as detail to see how passionate is that guy for that position. Yep. Okay. Let's move on to the next step. I think the majority of cases, the first step for the interview is a screening interview with recruiter. What kind of interview is this one? How should we prepare ourselves for that?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, if you step back a little bit, usually the interviews these days are set up in two different ways. One of them that I call with the old FANG, Facebook, now these days Meta, Netflix, Google, they have a very technical focused and lead code focused interview process. The other side of the spectrum is the companies that are looking for people, not just take heavy senior. So with those ones, you have many different steps, not necessarily having a lead code process. That's good to have in mind when you want to start applying for different companies, because your strategy might actually change. For Google, for Meta, you might actually want to start doing a lot of lead coding 2 months in advance to get your hand started on the questions or challenges. But on the other side, if you want to do like other companies, then you want to focus on everything else, like more softer skills, more kind of tricky stack questions. So before you get into the details of the interview, make sure you know what you are applying for. And if you don't know, always ask. It never hurts to ask. The person replies to your resume, says, "Hi, congratulations, you're being selected. And then let's set up a screening, or let's set up the next session together." Ask, what am I going to expect from this session? What are we going to talk about? It's never going to hurt. Now, if we go down the road of the companies that are not Google or large enough, they usually have a 5-step, more or less 5-step process. The screening, and then there's usually a technical. Sometimes there's assignment task that you take home task, or maybe live coding, depending on what they have set up. And there is a review after that. The review can be done with you on a call, or sometimes they do it at their own time. And then there is a cultural interview at the end, or before the cultural, some of them have system design, some of them they don't have a system design. But this is usually the current package that I've noticed for the past, 2, 3, maybe 4 years. As you said, the first one is definitely the screening. The screening is just get to know each other. It's very relaxed. They just want to know if the resume matches matches the person, or if the person that comes to the call is actually in general a good fit, not someone dodgy or someone who doesn't look proper. So be prepared, be relaxed, try to communicate easily. And there are great channels on YouTube that I have used for myself to improve on some of the important questions that can be asked for the screening. The most important one, please tell us about yourself.
Yeah.
That's the classic question they're going to ask. And trust me, you can win or you can lose by answering this question. I have lost one of my greatest interviews just by answering this question. So make sure you know what you're talking about.
I totally agree. Yeah, that's a bit critical. Sometimes you don't know how to answer that, where to start and where to end that question. It's a bit tricky. It's advisable to just be being prepared even for the simple stuff. Then normally we get stressed in any kind of interview. Yep. And you said a little bit about the technical part of interview. The next stage is, yes, it is the technical interviews. It could be any kind, like from the Codility, LeetCode, and any algorithm challenges to, they could give you a home assignment or system design, or just going into live coding and doing a pair programming, which any of those have their own challenges and pros and cons. Could you tell a little bit of more detail about these kind of technical interviews?
Sure, but if you allow me, one thing about the entire process, and specifically on the screening, is that study the company, see the goals and the values of the company. And it's very easy. Just open their website, see what they are proud of, see what they are heading to, and use them. If their direction is going towards like sustainability, environment friendly, make sure you are going to emphasize on the projects that are related to this, because that's what it matters to them. That's what they want to go towards. And not just in the screening, but in the following interviews as well, especially in screening and cultural. Now to the technical interview, well, I mean, the obvious answer to that would be just be prepared and make sure you study and understand the basics. But before you go to the interview, again, please ask for some materials to study before the interview. Because if you say, okay, I'm applying for an Android development role or for a backend, these two titles are broad enough that you can be asked on some part that you'd have never heard of. But if you get asked, what am I going to be asked? Am I going to be presented by an algorithm question? Am I going to be doing a live coding? Is it just going to be a fundamental question? Then you're prepared. Get ready for it. They're not going to give you the answers. They're going to tell you which areas they're going to cover. That's super, super important. Another one, if you are applying for medium to senior and above, make sure you know the fundamentals of software engineering in general. And it doesn't have anything to do with a language. You can learn in any language you're comfortable with. So, how does a dictionary or a hash map work? How does I actually need to remind myself of that. Threading work, if the language actually supports threading. On Java, threading is quite tricky. There's a lot of tricky questions that can be asked. On Android, what happens if there is a lifecycle callback? All different types of fundamental questions that are just, if you are in the business for the past 6, 7, 8 years, you might have not even worked with them, but these are the type of questions usually they ask for higher level position. So make sure you know them by heart. And you have, the easiest way, just Google for top interview questions for, let's say, Android development, top interview questions for Python backend. And there's tons of good resources out there to just see what type of questions are there to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think about some of the resources for these kind of interviews, I think you would be agreed to just practice on the LeetCode website or Codility. These are good websites. You can see different level of difficulty and you can pick one and just doing some practices to just kind of being warm up for the actual interview. And you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Again, if you are if you're applying for a company and they have told you that, hey, we're going to do some algorithm questions, make sure you study. Make sure you know what's a breadth first search or depth first search. You know what's, is it dynamic programming? If I'm not butchering the names, because it's been some time that I've been away. But make sure you know the top algorithms. You know, quick search. What is a linked list? You understand them and you have done practices. If they're not going to ask you algorithm question, then don't even bother study them, because they're gonna waste a lot of time, especially for the mid-levels or juniors. They're not gonna ask these types of questions. Focus on the fundamentals and the APIs that are mostly or widely used in your area.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I know there's a famous book. It's called Cracking the Coding Interview. I haven't read that, but I heard it a lot. I think that would be a good resource for those who really want to get that job, especially if there's one of these FANG companies, which would be helpful, I think. Yeah. And I remember before that, some people don't really like live coding and this kind of interview, which is so uncomfortable. Same for me. And they don't really like to see these kind of interview in the process. And even sometimes they ignore those job applications. And there's a GitHub repository, and it listed all the companies who they don't have such interviews. And I will put the link in the description if anyone who is interested, you can take a look. One thing else I wanted to mention it now is about system design interview. Could you before tell a little bit about that? What is this system design? Is it that difficult, or we should not really scared of that?
Well, it's not as scary. It's just, those meetings that a couple of engineers go right in the middle of their workday, and they just talk about, okay, how do you think we should put this component or class in our code base? That's the system design. That's what you're doing. But instead of being very specific about a single component, you're going to be challenged by the entire feature or entire system, to put it that way. Usually the questions that I've been asked were about design of WhatsApp, or design an Instagram, or design, now if I remember correctly, design translation tooling SDK. That was very specific thing. So don't be scared. It's nothing scary. But however, system design used to be very popular for the back-end folks, the people that are applying for the back-end roles. Nowadays, and by now I mean the past 3, probably 4 years, they are starting to introduce it to mobile developers as well, because mobile development has become so large and vast that the areas that you need to focus is too many, and they want people that are understanding many of them. So depending on how you are, which kind of stack you're going to apply for a backend on a mobile, type of the system design question you're going to be asked is slightly different. If you're an Android developer and you're applying for an Android role, the system design for WhatsApp circles around what kind of UI you're going to have. How are you going to handle image loading, for example? How are you going to handle network disconnection? These types of questions. But on the backend side, you want to say, okay, how do you want to handle a large number of requests coming at the system? Or how do you want to handle 2 different private chats, if you want to stick to the chat and WhatsApp example? Just be prepared and get used to one of the online whiteboarding tools. My favorite one is Excalibur. It's very easy and it's easy to get started. And fun fact, if you get used to it, you can actually use it during your work time, and it's easy to just convey what you want to tell to others using some small shapes or diagrams. So if we want to put everything together, basically when they say design a WhatsApp, don't do anything. Break it down to smaller chunks. What do you mean by a WhatsApp? Which part of WhatsApp do you need? Start asking questions. See what exactly they are referring to. And then go with the highest level possible of that design. And then see where the interview takes you. Ask questions, carry them around. See if they are understanding, following you. If they're not, tell them, do you want me to dive deeper? And then they'll tell you. If they're satisfied, they'll say, no, we're going to focus on the other part. And that's another clue. They want to see what you do with part B. Then focus on that. Tell them about how you want to handle image loading. Where does the images come from? What if you want to load multiple resolution of an image? With this kind of dialogue, you're navigating both the interview and yourself, what you're going to say. And it's important. You need to be in the lead, not them. They shouldn't be coming to you, hey, how about that? What about this? What are you going to do with this? What happens next? Have you thought about this? No. You need to be telling, okay, because problem B might arise, because we have caching, this caching, because we have CDN caching, then we need to take this measures A, B, and C. If you want me to explain more, then here is the component I will create for A, B, and C. It's important to you to be the leader in that interview.
Yep, totally agree. Few things I just remember when you was talking. One of the important things you keep mentioning it is like having a communication while doing the interview is more important than getting the answer and where you're going. They want to see your thought process. And yeah, that's one of the important thing. I think anyone wants to do a system design interview should think about that first. And you said about not going deep into the technical details, which it make the interview, I think, more difficult. I read it somewhere, and it's better to stay abstract and just keep asking questions to just drive the challenge toward your base knowledge and where you're good at it. Like if you're good at, I don't know, a specific kind of technology, you go toward that way, and then it helps you to first proceed the process and share your experience with that.
Absolutely.
And one thing, like you said, you lead the interview. I think it's more for senior levels who can lead and just drive the interview. But if you're below that or like mid-level, you just maybe sometimes you see the awkward silence and just waiting. What did they say? And then continue.
Yeah, totally. It's fine. I haven't seen system design interviews for mid or junior levels. I don't think it's fair. And I haven't asked for any of the companies that I've worked for to introduce it for those levels. But if you've seen it, don't get scared. It's nothing crazy. Just do whatever you were doing day to day and try to build that app, whether it's backend or front end, doesn't matter. Just try to build it. Tell them what you're going to think about. Imagine, okay, this is the easiest way that I can actually put it in my head. Imagine you are going to do a contract for a company and they ask you, hey, we want an Amazon application on Android. There are a set of questions you're going to ask them before you start coding, right? Ask that. Think about, put them in the shoes of that project owner and put yourself in the shoes of the contractor and then see where it goes. Usually it turns out very good when you communicate and talk and you try to explain your process.
Cool. I know a good source for system design interview. There was, I think, a few months ago. There was a developer, I think many Android developer knew. He called Manuel Vicentro, if I pronounce it correctly. He has a cheat sheet for system design for mobile specifically. I'll put the link in the description if anyone want to just take a look or want to get that cheat sheet for being prepared for this kind of interview. Okay, let's move on a little bit further to get to the next level, which I think could be more cultural fit interview or like a behavioral interview. That's also challenging. It's not that easy, but could you tell a little bit about these steps?
Let me start from here. You think this interview is the final and the easiest one because you're just going to talk and nothing bad is going to happen and everyone knows how to talk? But let me tell you this. This interview both has landed me jobs and both has lost me jobs. So make sure you actually understand. This is very similar to how you do screening. Sometimes the questions are even exactly the same sometimes, but the answers you gave after this process that you have been through, interviewing with the company, must be improved, must be more understanding of the company, must be more relaxed. So make sure, again, go and study all types of resources that you can get your hands on. Now, I'm going to share later a couple of YouTube channels that are really good and they share kind of different scenarios of the cultural interviews and study them. See what's the questions. Try to answer those questions in front of yourself and put a mirror in front of yourself and try to do the interview together and see if you're fluent, if you're relaxed or the time pressure. To make sure you do a timing session practice for yourself so that you're not answering each question with 30 minutes answers. No, each question maximum should be a minute and a half is already too much. And obviously you need to make them excited. There was a case that I didn't do very good in the system design. I was okay in the interview of the technical step and it was in the final step. Somehow I got to the final cultural step. I managed to kind of put together everything that I had in that interview. And the guy was actually a VP of engineering. That person alone liked me for some reason, and they said, okay, he said, I'm going to advocate for you so that we can get you on board. Just because of that, I'm trying to say how important it is. The questions are not going to be so different. If you learn general types of questions they're going to ask, again, tell me about yourself. Why are you going to apply for a company? What gets you excited? What happens if you have a conflict with your manager? What if you see a conflict with your colleague? How do you navigate yourself if you don't have any tasks? These are just the questions that they ask. Maybe they change the wording, but they always ask one or more of these questions.
Yeah.
Study them, have them in your belt. What I do, I usually have a notebook that I write tips for that company that I open it up every time before the interview, relevant interview, and put it in front of me. If they ask these questions, I see, okay, this company is about, let's say, blockchain. It's about exchange, and they are going to be the leader. So I have 3 keywords. I need to make sure that these keywords somehow are embedded in my answers or in my experience. Otherwise, I'm not a fit. I'm not a good fit for this company.
I think you heard about the STAR method. Do you recommend using that while you're answering?
Well, if it works, I haven't managed to use it. I have this little notebook thing that I've just mentioned has been a lifesaver to me, but I've never managed to actually apply a STAR. I might have unknowingly, but telling me that, hey, you need to do stars. I've never done it. And I don't know how people actually remember, oh, I need to apply stars here. This is the star moment. I don't know. I just practice and I know what I'm going to do, my sentences, and I have some stories that already prepared for that company. If the questions arise, then I know already what to talk about.
Yeah, I think for those people who speak too much and they like tell a long story or they speak too vague and you can't really get the point. For those people, it's a good practice to get to know about this method and just like make some muscle memory for that and then speak like that. And when they get to the interview, they can manage to answer clearly.
Totally. Yeah, definitely.
Let's go to the last step. We thought the behavioral interview is the last one, but it's not. The most important thing is when you get the offer, and that's the important thing you want to negotiate. And you tell a little bit about these parts, please.
Sure. We have been talking about only one side of the interview, and that's about the company interviewing us. But that's not fair, actually. It's called interview, but it's a double-sided highway. Both of you should be interviewing other side. So you should be interviewing the company as well. And you need to asking for questions, understanding about the company, and trying to understand if you're a good fit, if they are a good fit for you. If, for example, if you get hired at this position at this company, would you be seeing yourself for the next 1 or 2 years, or are you going to leave the company right immediately after 6 months? I would suggest try to find a company that's a good fit for you so you can stay there, grow, and kind of have a career out of it. That way, you'll also have a better resume for the next company if you ever want to leave. That's important. Having that said, you have been in the process of the interview for 5 steps. You have answered to them. 4 or 5 steps, they have answered to you. Now it's for you and them to decide, okay, are we going to continue with this person? Or for yourself, am I going to actually answer to this company if they come up with an offer? Or what kind of offer with this company would be acceptable to me? I've had companies that say, okay, if you're identical, I've had identical offers and I had to choose between them. That's the moment that those questions or understanding of the company comes to you and help you. This company has that. This company has this culture. This company is growing. This company is already established. So which one is a better fit for me? This company all be in a team of 1 person. This company is a team of 10 persons. So these questions are critical before you get to the job offers. Again, there is a keyword that I'm always saying to my friends that they can Google or you search it on YouTube, is that interviewing the interviewer. So there are lots of good questions, and don't ask like, is this a good company? Of course, they're going to say yes. You have to come up with questions that give you some data about them. A good question that I always ask is, what is one thing that you don't like about the company? There are different answers to these questions, but there are some answers that are just a straight up red flag. Like if they say there's nothing wrong with the company, they're just lying. Mm-hmm. Either they don't know or they're lying. That means that person is not qualified or there's something wrong in that.
Sorry to interrupt you. I remember you said something to me about this step, and it was, don't afraid of asking questions. they're not gonna like reject the offer. You already cost for that company a lot. They spent a lot of time. They had interview, and if you calculate all of this, it be a couple of thousand for the company. More than a couple maybe. And yeah, you have to like not being afraid of asking any type of questions. You really want to know about the company. What kind of insurance do they have? How is the holiday? How any detailed questions which just make everything clear to you, then you'll be happily accepting that offer.
Exactly. That's very well put. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot about this job interview process. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, on the offer, you mentioned asking questions. Asking questions is always a good thing. But there's another thing that I see a lot of people being scared of, and that's negotiation. Make sure you negotiate. You're not going to lose the offer. And that's different than asking questions. Negotiating is if they have come up with an offer, let's say X amount, let's say 10,000 euros per year, and with 25 days of holidays, it's not gonna hurt if you ask for anything else on top of that. Make sure you negotiate. And it doesn't have to be just on the money component. Honestly, for me, insurance is important. If the company doesn't have insurance, I can ask them, can you add an insurance to the package? If no, then that's a bad sign for me. Maybe I should consider other places. So there are different things, different items, different components for each person. Have that in mind, be prepared, and have a baseline for yourself. See, if they suggest me X amount with this amount and this amount of days and holidays with these perks and benefits, I'm good. Then start talking and start negotiating. Again, for negotiation, there are good resources out there. I'm going to leave 1 or 2 videos on YouTube again so that you go and can have a look and get it from there.
Yeah, I think one key takeaway from what you said just is don't see the offer as a salary, see it as a package. And there are so much other benefit you can get if they give you like the relocation package and a temporary accommodation, or these kind of quite important. Also, if for the permanent, for the commute, if they want to provide any ticket or any kind of things which it vary between companies, you can like think of that. If they don't want to raise the salary and what you want to expect, you ask for something else and see like what if what's that called, is bonus package, and you ask for that. You can just ask, like do such negotiation, then you can be happy with what you will get.
Hopefully, yeah, that's exactly the point.
Cool. Thank you, Sayed. I think we are about to end of our chat, and thank you very much, and hope everyone enjoyed the video and you found this information useful, and you could be able to use it in the actual interviews. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not, and like the video please, because it helps us a lot to grow the channel. And I'm planning to record videos often. I'm planning to do it every 2 weeks, and let's see the future how it goes. Thank you, Sayed, again. And is there any last note you want to say?
No, that's it. I really thank you and appreciate for having me here. It was really fun, and I hope everyone enjoys and excel at their interview process.
Of course. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.